M2 Mac Mini released in early 2023 and now has become 1 year old. I was able to get my hands on it during the launch and have been using this device as my main daily driver for my desktop setup. This video will be the experience of a content creator using the M2 Mac Mini for the past year. I have previously also created a 2-month review of using the Mac Mini from switching from Windows OS to Mac OS. However, this video will be mainly focusing on my overall experience, although I may mention a few factors here and there. This particular model is the M2 standard chip, coming in at 8GB of RAM and 256GB of SSD storage. To upgrade certain parts of the Mac Mini, it can be quite expensive, like literally an additional $200 just to upgrade your storage size. That's why I recommend and definitely know that most people who are creators have their own SSDs at hand, as they are just more cheaper and reliable option, much preferred rather than paying Apple extra to get that storage. However, when picking out your RAM option, you might have to be a bit more careful. It can get quite problematic for the Mac Minis, as you cannot upgrade the RAM itself. It's internal upgrade, so I advise that if power is a priority, then you either get the Pro chips or the Max chips, or even consider bumping up the RAM option, as that will definitely help enhance performance. Personally, the standard M2 chip is fine for me. It's just as powerful enough to be able to edit 4K footage shot on my iPhone and create and edit thumbnails through Lightroom and Canva. And it's definitely most fine for consuming shows, listening to music, and watching YouTube videos. But I feel as though I should have gone for the 16GB RAM. At least that way I would have future-proofed myself, and it would have just been a more smarter move if I decide to upgrade later in the future. But thankfully, so far, the 8GB RAM model runs fine for me. And it's nearly as powerful as if it was already 16GB RAM because of how powerful the M2 processor already is. And I barely even get stutters or lags, as it's actually very rare to get crashes when exporting and editing on DaVinci Resolve, which is my primary app on the Mac Mini. As my main use case for the Mac is for content creation and editing, I tend to only turn on my Mac for creating rather than consuming. Therefore, I don't tend to watch too many videos and shows on the device, and mostly only use my desktop as a creative. However, when I do watch content on the Mac, it runs smoothly. Let's be honest here, any device can run this process, as it's not at all demanding as editing. But the Mac Mini does have its pros. If you're looking for a powerful device to handle a hybrid of content creation and content consumption, then this one's for you. Now, talking about the build and the ports of the Mac, it has 2 USB-A ports, 2 USB-C ports, and a headphone jack. For me currently, it's perfect. However, the lack of ports can be inconvenient for some users. Only need to use one USB-C port, that being for my monitor, which I have previously made a video on and has been my choice of display for the Mac Mini. Before the release, after taking a few days to watch a few videos of the M2 Mac Mini before purchasing, I was also a little concerned about the lack of ports, and saw many YouTubers recommending the Satechi USB-C hub, and I also had planned to purchase it along with my Mac. However, a year later, my needs for the accessory has been very limited, and it just wasn't as necessary for me. I only hooked up the monitor with one of my USB-C ports, and I used my mouse and keyboard with the other USB-A ports. And for the SSD, I just plug in with a USB port available in my monitor, rather than the one already on the Mac Mini. So in terms of the Mac Mini's port availability, although very limited for some people, it still does cover my needs, which is fairly basic. The design of the Mac Mini is the same as the previous Intel versions and M1 versions, which is such an Apple thing to do just by reusing the designs. Anyways, although still clean, I don't like the placement of the power button and the headphone jack. As I place the device in the corner of my desk, the back side of the device is always facing the wall. Turning on the Mac Mini is a bit awkward in a way which I've got to arch my fingers backwards, and also with the headphone jack. Again, the same thing with the placement being uncomfortable. It always tends to end up bending when I plug it in, which is annoying as it sometimes even distorts the audio. Yes, as an alternative, I do have my Bluetooth earbuds, so why don't I just stick to that? Well, I'd say the wired earbuds feel a bit more accurate in some cases when listening for audio, which is definitely a necessity when editing and getting the correct volume and levels. Therefore, I continue to use wired earbuds when editing on this device. Although I just talked about my needs being very limited for the USB hub, however, a year later, my needs for the accessory has been very limited. For me currently, it's perfect. I'm currently having second thoughts. This is because I have recently just set up my microphone that does require a USB-A plug. As I have both of the Mac's USB-A ports occupied for my keyboard and mouse, it definitely wouldn't hurt to get an add-on accessory for the extra ports, so I might look to purchase one next time. Now I want to talk about a few apps that have been running on the Mac Mini, mostly focusing on the ones that have been most helpful for me, but I will mention other apps that I do like to use. One main app that has really helped me with my overall workflow and just overall functionality of the Mac is a highly recommended app known as Alfred, an extension app for the Mac, which has a lot of features that I want to talk all about, but I will save that for a later video. A brief explanation of the app: it just replaces the default Spotlight search and enables more functions, and basically how I see it, updated version of Spotlight search, like a 2.0, allowing you to do more by searching through the web or through folders and files very quickly. It doesn't seem that major, but the feature definitely has helped me save some time. It has both a paid version and a free version. I'm currently using the free version as I personally find it to be just enough. Another app I find useful is the Rectangle app, which allows you to be able to snap tabs, just like how you can do it by default on Windows without needing a third-party app. That's another corner of switching from Windows to Mac. And one cool app which I thought I'd bring up is Silico. It links with your Spotify to give you a clean interface of the current song playing, pinned to the corner of your screen, and also easy access of music controls. Now for a quick rundown of all my other apps: the default Apple Notes for personal notes, same with the stock calendar app, used to help me with schedules or events, third-party apps including Spotify for listening to music, Chrome as a default browser, Surfshark as my personal choice of VPN, and Notion, which helps me with organizing all of my YouTube projects, including scripts and video ideas, and finally DaVinci Resolve for video editing. I have talked about my full experience for the past year. Hopefully you guys were able to take in from this video if you also want to purchase the Mac Mini, and so far I've loved it and I would highly recommend it. Can't believe it's already been a year since we started the channel. Thank you to everyone who has watched since the beginning, and welcome to those who are new to the channel. That's it for today's video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.